All right, we're going to set up the large and medium buildings in this video. And the first thing I'm going to do is head back over to my surface sampler, and I'm going to bump this up to 0.2 points per square meter. And we can see this gets a little bit denser. So I'm going to pull off of my copy attributes. We can turn off the point, inspect, and debug. And I'm going to type named reroute. This will just allow me to keep things a little more organized. We'll rename this to process landscape data. And I'll just highlight these points. Tap the C key. And we can just add a little note here for what we created in this section. Okay. Go ahead and grab that process landscape data node once again. And I'm going to pull off and type in random selection or random choice. And this will just give me the ability to pick some number of points out of this randomly. You can give it a fixed number if you want, or you can just tell it that you want some ratio. And I want a fairly small ratio. We'll start with 0.001. I'm going to turn on debug so I can get a sense for, oh, I think I need to add a debug node here. It's just giving me all the landscape data when I debug the random choice, but here we can see where those are. Little random points here and there. That should be fine. Let's go ahead and add a transform points node. And we may need to play around with these values a little bit. But here in scale min, we'll set the scale min in X and Y to 8. And in Z, which is the vertical axis, we'll set it to 40. I'm going to turn off uniform scale. And then for X and Y, we're going to set it to 25 and 100. Let's go ahead and hop over to modeling mode for just a moment. We'll make a box. We'll drop the box. I'm going to set the new asset location to current folder, and we'll hit accept. So now we have ourselves a building. I'll just call this SM Building 01. We'll create a material for it in a moment. Actually, I'm not sure if we really even need to worry about throwing that static mesh on there. Let's just, yeah, okay. So after our random choice and our transform points, we're going to get this, which is our current selection of big buildings and the size that they will ultimately be when we add a static mesh spawner. This feels like it might be a bit too many, so we'll just cut it in half there. Now what I would like to do is I want to cluster smaller buildings, medium-sized buildings, around the larger buildings. And you can see here we've got a little bit almost of an intersection. We're pulling so few points here that it's not all that common, but we can just do a pruning node here, self-pruning. And this will get rid of any buildings that are intersecting each other. So now that I've got the large buildings, I want to go ahead and add a named reroute. Call it large buildings. And we can go ahead and highlight these nodes, tap the C key. Let's go ahead and add a reference now to our large buildings points. What I'd like to do is use my process landscape data. And we're going to pipe this into, I guess you can't debug a named reroute, but we're going to pipe both of these point collections into a distance node. And the one here is going to be spatial. So the source points are going to be our process landscape data. And the large buildings are going to be the target. And what we're going to be looking for here is the distance between any of our process landscape data points and any of our large buildings. So by default, it's going to be set to 20,000, which might be a little bit high. I want to change the source shape and target shape to center and center. And if we turn on set density here, we should be able to debug this. Right. So you can see any point that is beyond 5,000 units out of our process landscape data collection from any point in our large building collection is going to have a density of 1. And any point that is below 5,000 is going to have a lower density. So out of here, we can just do a attribute filter. And we'll be looking at density. And we'll say anything that is less than constant threshold, 1. And then I think I might have a debug up here. So here you can see any point from our process landscape data that is within 5,000 units of one of our large buildings is now in this other collection. So let's do another one of these random choice nodes here. And in this case, I'm going to use the ratio as well, but it'll be a higher ratio, maybe, well, whatever, we'll try 0.2. This may be way too many. And I think I need to plug this into a debug. That looks okay. Let's do a transform points node here. And for our medium buildings, we'll set the scale min in X and Y to 6 and 6, and then scale max to 12 and 12. And then 4 in Z for the min and 25 for the max. So that gives you a general sense of the size. Let's pull off and do a self-pruning node here. So these would be our medium buildings clustered around our larger buildings. And to me, that feels like it might be too many. So let's just reduce this to 0.1, maybe 0.05. All right, I'm thinking like office parks. But that looks okay. It looks like we have some intersections here between our medium buildings and our large buildings. So what I'm going to do is pull off a difference node over here. And the medium buildings will go into the source. And then we'll go grab our large buildings. And those we pipe into differences. And then we need to set the density function to binary. We'll see where that lands us. So we should have no more issues with the medium buildings intersecting directly with the large buildings. There are a couple of spots where it's going to be pretty close, but I can live with that. Let's go ahead and add a named reroute. Call this one medium buildings. Don't need the debug in there. And we will go ahead and select all this stuff, tap the C key, keep things nice and organized. Okay, we'll pick this up in the next one with small buildings and houses, and then we will try to figure out how to make it look like there are roads and all kinds of other interesting things. So stick around for that.